3 DFIPs about the dToken system in one voting round. Welcome to another DeFi chain video. My name is Kögi and as always I try to provide you with data and insights so that you can make smart decisions for yourself. Today I want to talk about the current voting round because there are 3 different DFIPs about the dToken system in one voting round now, and they have quite different effects or topics. And one is quite complex to understand it, so I thought I make a video about my opinion on those DFIPs, what I think about them, and what would be the effects of them, especially the complicated one, to get a better understanding to everyone. And as a disclaimer, this is my personal opinion on that, might be biased, so it's just I provide what I think about them, and you then decide for yourself and make your own decisions. Let's dive right in. There's the first DFIP, it's called Free Market Remove Discount and Stabilization Fee, and it basically wants to remove all fees, so the discount and the stabilization fee, to decrease them by 10% a day, deactivate the negative interest. I guess it means stabilization fee payout. It says negative interest rates, but I assume that it means the stabilization fee payout, not the real dynamic interest rates. Deactivate the DUSD only votes, so the DUSD staking, stop and release the DUSD bonds, deactivate the buy and burn bot, and remove rewards in DUSD and DeFi. So basically get rid of all the fees, no more chance to get reduced algos. So that's one of the main topics here, and have just the free market decide the DUSD price. And let's directly go to the second DFIP, because then we can talk about the effects, because second one is step two of opening DeFi chain to outside investors, which is a bit of a weird title, but yes. Here it's basically the same. It also remove all fees, deactivate the negative interest, deactivate the DUSD only votes, stop and release the DUSD bonds, deactivate the buy and burn bot. Difference here is that this one wants no transition period compared to the 10% decrease per day of the other one. And this one also wants to evaluate the DUSD loans on the DEX price at time of issuance. And before we talk about the things that they have in common, one note, and that's already my personal big note there. We now have there 2 DFIPs which do nearly the same, but they are 2 different DFIPs. And in my opinion, generally, if you provide a DFIP, if you have an idea, if you propose a change, you should engage in a strong discussion with the community, have feedback from the community, and get to a consensus with other people in the community. What's a good way of proposing this DFIP, or what's a good things to change there. So it should never happen that you have 2 DFIPs which basically want the same, but are created as different DFIPs. Because what if both are approved now? So that's, yeah, it shows that the authors of those DFIPs did not engage in a discussion in the community, did not react to feedback, did not talk to each other, and have a consensus there, but just provided the DFIPs, which in my opinion is really not the way that this should happen. About the effect, maybe first highlight or outline one important step here, and that's this evaluation of DUSD in loans on the DEX price. The first version, so there was a bit of reaction to the community, but it was not a discussion and feedback. It was that the first version here was not at time of issuance, but evaluate DUSD loans at the DEX price. And people from the community, including myself, showed that this would open a massive attack vector on the whole system, because then you could put stuff in collateral in the vault, take a massive DUSD loan, sell the DUSD on the market, crash the DUSD price. Therefore, your loan is suddenly worth far less, and you can take out half of your collateral again and have additionally the funds from the sold DUSD. So you make a profit just from this action, and then just loop it, do it again, get a more profit, and crash the DUSD price with that. So it just opens a loop to incentivize short sellers to profit from just shorting it to the ground. Then they added this price at time of issuance, which is actually not solving the problem, because then this attacker just creates one vault, takes the loan with the results from the sell, creates a second vault, and moves where they can create the loan with the cheaper DUSD price because it's at time of issuance of the loan, and then it stays throughout the loan term. So they get a second vault, cheaper DUSD price in the loan, move all expensive loans from the first vault to the cheap loans from the second vault, and you have the same attack vector and the same effect. Even better for the attacker now, because if the attack initially fails and the price moves back up from the DUSD, now their loan is always valued at the low price where they created the cheaper vault. So it's even better for the attacker now, which is not what you want if you want to mitigate a attack vector. And it even adds an additional problem, because, for example, if you now take put $150 worth of collateral into a vault, into the collateral, take a loan worth of $100 in DUSD, valued at the time, for example, now 10 cent, at 10 cent price, $100 worth DUSD, so 10 DUSD. And now DUSD rises in price, for example, to $20, 20 cent, which is, we want DUSD back at $1, right? And if it rises to 20 cent, that's just a small step. But this vault would suddenly be heavily under collateralized, because now you have DUSD valued $200, but the loan is not valued $200. The loan is still valued $100 because it's fixed. So you have $150 in the collateral. The vault doesn't even go into liquidation. It's just highly under collateralized and unbacked DUSD vaults, loans, which actually just means it creates bad debt, because no one will buy that back. No one will do that, which is effectively uncontrolled algo DUSD, because the DUSD are in the system, but there is no loan that anyone needs to pay back because it's a super cheap loan and it doesn't change. So effectively, this DFIP, just because of this point, is actively killing the system. Now with two ways, even if on the way down and on the way up. And overall, now let's talk about the overall thing. In my opinion, the problem we have right now in the DUSD is an oversupply versus a low demand. And we try to, what we need to do is change that, to massively increase the demand or massively decrease the supply to get the balance back. And the oversupply is algo DUSD. Algos are necessary in the system, because we saw that in the beginning of the dToken system, we need algos, but we don't need that much algos DUSD in the system. We need less in a relative part. So over time, we need a measure to reduce the algos if they get too big. If the demand reduces over time, we need measures to reduce the algos in the system. Both of those DFIPs, by removing just all the fees, just radically, we remove all those measures. So even if those DFIPs get the DUSD back to $1, and I highly doubt, because there is nothing in there that supports that. It's just opening the free market and not working on the real cause of the system, of the problem. So even if it does, there is nothing to keep the algo DUSD in check, even if they are created via maybe future swap, but this will likely over time not create it. But if we come into a premium, real dynamic interest might create algo DUSD. So over time, and we still have a lot of algo DUSD, we need something to keep them in check and to deal with them, and they are just removing it. Also, on a side note, and that's same as with the discussion point, just for me, a super bad taste or even a red flag. The author of this DFIP already left or is leaving the DeFi chain system, is currently selling his frozen masternodes, or try to sell his frozen masternodes, which leaves a super bad taste if you propose a massive change to the system and then just leave. And the other one is threatening to leave DeFi chain if this DFIP is not approved. which is also, in my opinion, not the way to go. You can propose whatever you want. In my opinion, you should discuss with the community to find a consensus before creating the DFIP, so that we have a good consensus in the DFIP and then put it on the chain. But if the community, the masternodes, are against your opinion, yeah, it's not a good way to then threaten to leave the system. Yeah, but that's the way that they decided to do it. But yeah, overall, I really have to say that those two DFIPs target the symptom, but not the cause, and it would effectively kill the DUSD should be valued at $1 gold. They say that they don't care about that. They don't care about the algos. They don't care about DUSD at $1. They just want free market. And I think that's 100% the wrong direction to target this. So with this, decide, but as again, my personal opinion, you decide what you want, but please, yeah, vote. Third option is this one with a bit of a clumsy title. It's officially called Repack and Recollateralize the dToken system as deterministically and effectively as possible without permanent expropriation. It has a lot of points in there, and we will go through all of them, just maybe to get the correct meaning of what's going on there. Let's rephrase the title a bit and say it's a dToken system restart with airdrop to existing holders. So the idea is to get this excess supply, this massive amount of supply that we have right now, that is basically choking the system and preventing any healthy growth, because it's always pushing more supply in, or having the supply there, and the supply is always pushing everything down, to force that supply on the sidelines, force that out of the system over now, and reintroducing it if the system is healthy. So basically airdrop it to the existing holders, airdrop the tokens that they had before back to them as soon as the system can support it. And how it's done, what's the point in the DFIP, is converting all dTokens and DUSD to new tokens. And it's basically as a dToken split, but with a one-to-one split. And this is technically needed. So this is not so much a definition of the DFIP, but it's technically needed about the EVM, but we will talk about that in a minute. And we name the DUSD to USD, which is a marketing measure. The effects directly are then that all at this activation, when this is done, it's basically a one-time measure done once at the block, and then has the effects over time. And at this block, it would pay back all the loans, remove and lock 90% of the dTokens positions, remove 90% of the gateway positions, and lock remove the USDT, lock 90% of dToken and USDT balances, and remove and lock 90% of the collaterals from vaults, for the DUSD or USDT collateral from vaults. And so overall, to keep it just in mind as an understanding, this would, on the DVM side, on the native side, take all existing dTokens and DUSD, lock 90% of it away, move it from liquidity mining positions, from DUSD vaults, and from your from balances, lock 90% of it away, 10% stay in the system as initial liquidity for the new system. And new system is maybe a wrong term there, because it's the same design system, because the system as it's designed with the future swap, dynamic interest rate and everything works as designed. Within the system, we now need to prove that it also works for the DUSD if it grows in a healthy way. So the system itself as designed stays as it is. It's just that this excess supply of algo DUSD and algo dTokens are removed from the system temporarily. 10% stay as initial liquidity, and then the system gets time to breathe again, space to breathe and grow in a healthy way. And as soon as this new system needs the algo DUSD, or needs the tokens, needs the liquidity to prevent strong premiums, then they are introduced back in. But we will see that a bit more in detail in a minute. One additional thing, that's the only change to the system itself. So there's one change to the system itself, and that's to replace the stabilization fee with a small system-wide DUSD swap fee. Right now, the stabilization fee is only on the gateway pools, only on selling DUSD, and this would remove that and introduce a general DUSD swap fee, but a very low one, which is at 20% algo ratio, it would be 0.09%, and at 100% algo ratio, it would be 5%, but on all DUSD swaps. And just to have a bit of a comparison here, on Uniswap, on our vanilla swap, on the DMC and everything, there is a 0.3% commission on every swap. We, on the native side, have a 0.2% commission, and at the 20% algo ratio, with the 0.09% on top, this would mean we would still have a lower fee for the swap by itself than on the DMC, on Uniswap or anything. So this is just to keep that in mind. There will be then a really small but overall fee to keep it more leveled and even to everything. Also important, there's no direct change on the EVM in terms of the funds or anything. There's no forced lockup. Why? We will come to that in a minute. But this does not create any loophole or anything. It's just that there will be also the possibility to have a secondary market. So anyone with the old funds on EVM can still swap them on the DEX or anything, and they can always opt in to the new system by moving back to the DVM. And the system, as I said, will release these locked tokens over time once the new system can support it. It will be maximum 1 to 5% per week. So if as soon as the system can support it, it can be 1% per week or up to 5% if there's a strong need, with a strong premium and everything. If there's a strong need for more liquidity, it can be up to 5% of the locked funds per week. And it's not exactly 5%, but just to have rough numbers. And those criteria to release it are based on the algo ratio, so low algo ratio below 20%. The price needs to be above $1, and the market cap of the dToken system needs to be in check with the overall market cap of the DFI. And also one thing to note, because this will take time to implement, and it might create some uncertainty until then. And what if the system heals itself until it can be activated? And therefore we have this, it's called a kill switch in the DFIP, that if the system gets healthy enough before this thing gets finally implemented and can be activated, then the thing is not activated. So there will be no lockup if the USD comes to $1 before the thing is activated, implemented. And to support with that and hopefully not have to activate this whole thing, there will be an additional 0.5% burn on every DUSD swap until this whole thing is done. So to have basically a last chance for the system to heal itself with additional burn, and with the because now we have the measures with fees going down. Maybe this increases the demand. We don't know. It could be that this reduction of the fee to the calculated value, which is currently around 3% and likely goes down below 1%. If this all works out, then it's nothing is activated. We increase the chances with the additional burn, but if it doesn't work out, we have a deterministic way of solving it. And just here about this new fee, it's again exponential. So it goes slowly up. At the 50% algo ratio, it's still 0.5, only 0.5%, and then up to at maximum 5% fee if you have 100% algo ratio. So this is a lot of numbers, a lot of data. So let me try to put that a bit into graphics and maybe increase the understanding of what's it about. Current system, we have a lot of algos in the system and therefore a lot of oversupply to the demand. We have 90 million algo dTokens, all numbers in DUSD, 110 million algo DUSD, and just a few, not counting the loops, just in total 6 million in loans. That's, on the other side, we have a demand, again, not counting the loops, of collateral and DUSD in gateways and the dTokens and DUSD in the dToken pools. Yeah, about 50. I think that's yeah, it's 40, a bit above 45 million or something. No, it's above 50 million, a bit above 50 million. So there is demand, but not enough. There's additional demand for trading positions. There's additional demand on the DMC, but we see in the price that there is far too much supply for the demand. And now the goal is that we do this restart, which basically takes this oversupply out of the equation for some time. So they are now locked. 90% of those algos are locked, and the remaining initial liquidity is far below the expected demand. The demand likely goes down a bit because that's what's currently in the system, in the pools. Initially, that will go away, is locked away, because the current supply, 90% of it is locked away. But the rewards are still there. People still want to trade, and there's still funds there that wants to use that. And therefore, this is likely going down a bit, but it's still above the supply that we have initially in there. And with the reduced supply, the reduced liquidity, it's also far faster for all the measures, the buy and burn and any measure that we have right now, the rewards and anything, to get the DSD or the USDD then back to $1, right? And as soon as this there, dynamic interest will kick in. So the idea is to reduce the supply below the demand, to get the price at 1 and above, and then with this air to breathe, have a growing system, because everything works, real world assets usable, dToken system usable, demand growing, which means we have loans, because there is only that initial liquidity with the algos. No more algos can be created fast, so there need to be loans, and there is additional demand in there. And over time, we expect the demand to be a lot above the supply for some time, same as we had it in the beginning in the dToken system, where we had 30% premium in the DUSD and additional, so overall a 50% premium in dToken DUSD chain. With the future swap, the dToken premium is now in check, but the DUSD premium will likely come in and create demand for additional tokens. So as soon as this happens, the system grows in a healthy way, creates demand, additional demand for liquidity. These algos that are locked will get into the system to prevent too strong premiums and give it back to the holders until everything is moved back and we have an overall growing system. So that's the overall idea of this whole thing. Now to the EVM part, because on EVM this is all now DVM down here. So as soon as this is activated, the whole tokens are now the new tokens. There are no old tokens in the DVM part, native DEX, Oracle's future swap, everything works on the new tokens. But we can't do this automatic conversion on the EVM side. There is no way to do that without messing up smart contracts, stubs and everything. So there is no automatic conversion on the EVM side. So on EVM we will have old funds, old tokens, and the new ones can be converted directly, as right now, back and forth, up and down. The old thing, old tokens with the liquidity that you have currently there will stay there and will be traded on DEX. So there will likely be some secondary market to swap DUSD to USDD, or the old Tesla to the new Tesla, or even swap between old Tesla and old SPY and stuff like that. So there will be a secondary market where you can still trade that, but keep in mind, those old tokens will then have no connection to the oracles or anything. The only thing that you can always do is move those funds back down to the DVM. If you move it back down, it gets automatically converted into the new system, automatically split to have the currently release ratio funds in your address and the remaining funds locked into the native smart contract, and will be then released with the criteria and everything. So you can always opt in. You don't lose anything if you move funds to EVM or have it there, because you can always opt in, but also you don't gain anything regarding the new system. You still have the funds, your full funds available, and you can trade them on the free market. So you gain that, but those tokens, the Tesla, the old SPY and everything, lose the connection to the oracles. So there will be even Tesla to DUSD, old Tesla to DUSD will have no connection to the oracle price. There is no price connection anymore after the switch. So this is to keep in mind. And therefore it also does not create any loophole or anything, because you don't circumvent the lockup if you move your funds up before the activation, because then you have the old funds there. Yes, you can use them, but USDD will be soon at $1 after the activation. DUSD will still stay at the price that it has down here right now, and it's a free market. And if you want to move down, you have to opt in and then anyway get the lockup of the ratio. So this is the explanation with pictures, and they say it this way. Just as a last sum up for anyone to have a clear picture what this DFIP would actually mean. Right now, just as a reminder, this will take some time to be implemented. I will try to implement it myself, but I don't know if I succeed and if my code is then good enough for the core developers, but I will help to implement that, say it this way. And until it's implemented, there's basically nothing happening with your funds directly. And it might not even get activated if the system heals, if the current measures work good enough, if the reduction of the fee, the move towards a free market actually works, then nothing is done at all. In my opinion, if this is approved, it's nearly certain that DUSD or USDD goes back to $1. Either the system heals itself before the implementation of this thing, then DUSD goes to $1, or if this is activated, we have a deterministic approach to get the USDD to $1 with the reduced initial supply and everything. So over the time, until this is activated and implemented, somewhere in between, we will go back to $1. Then, if it's activated, it might take some time until you get all the funds out, but nothing is lost. So if this whole thing gets activated, these funds are locked, but if the system works as it's designed, everything is introduced back if the system, once the system grew enough and in a healthy way to support it. And at least after the activation of this, the whole dToken system is back to 100% usability again, and the whole use case of dTokens are activated, and we can ride the real world asset hype that's currently growing and building up in the whole ecosystem. If it's activated, the effects on your funds, just to have a quick reminder on that, or quick summary, any DUSD only roles are unlooped, nothing for you to do there. Anyway, the payout will stop, so they are just out. Any open loans will be paid back with balances in your account, and if you don't have enough balances in your account, the collateral is used to pay it back. So that's something to keep in mind. Once this is activated, so it will again take time to implement it, then it will be activated. There will be a lot of communication upfront. So nothing to do right now, nothing to worry about right now, just to have a picture of what you're voting for right now. Any funds in liquidity mining positions of the dToken system, dToken DUSD, 10% of it will be converted to the new system, 90% removed from the pool, and the tokens locked. So the DUSD and the dTokens converted to the new tokens and locked. Similar on the liquidity mining positions on the gateway pools, 10% converted to the new system directly in the pools, 90% removed from the pool, and the DUSD that gets out of this liquidity mining positions are locked as USDD, and the DFI and the stablecoins stay in your account. And any DUSD that you have in collateral after unlooping and payback of loans, so anything that's left there after that, 10% is converted to USD and stay in the collateral, and 90% is removed from the vault and locked as the USDD again. And funds on EVM, again, no change there, but you can opt into the system anytime and therefore also have the lockup. So that's in a nutshell what this is about. I hope it helped. I hope it explains. Again, this is my personal opinion on this. Might be biased because of how people acted in the proposals and in the discussions, because this DFIP was discussed a lot. There were lots of back and forth. Maybe also worth noting that the initial version of this DFIP, in my opinion, there were some red flags in there or some deal breakers that were commented and feedbacked by the community, and they changed it. They did a lot of back and forth discussions. I think in the end it was version 4 or even 5 that was the final version. There was a community space where there was a lot of discussions about certain points. So a lot of discussions until the community came to a consensus on what's the best way of doing this idea and doing this approach, and what's the best way to define it. And then it was put forward and created the DFIP, which is exactly how it should happen. And in my opinion, yes, it's a drastic measure. It's something I would prefer if we not have to activate it, but it's a deterministic way, and it's nearly certain that this works. And then we have all the uncertainty behind us and can move on and focus on building on DMC and building on top of a working system. So with that, I hope this gave you insights. This helped you understand why I think about this DFIP and the others the way I think about them. And now you hopefully can make smart decisions for yourself. And please vote. Make sure you are able to vote and use your vote so that we have a strong decision from the community in this regard. And with that, see you in the next video.